Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown with you next 2 hours. Sidelines on this Thursday. Got a great lineup. Jimmy Hodgeby joining us here momentarily. And we will be starting off with Dudley Dawson at hogville.net, checking in on the Razorbacks. That, of course, the ECS House Industries, Chad House, sponsor of ours, Razorback Report. In the second segment, Gary Harris, Tide 100.9 and WVUA TV 23. Got to check out the show he does on Tuesday nights at 6:30 with Rodney Orr of Tider Insider. Do a great job of taking a look at Alabama football every week, 6:30 Tuesday nights. Top of hour number 2, Tony Barnhart checks in from Atlanta, Mr. College Football. He'll be giving us the latest, his takeaways from college football up to this point, where he thinks we're going. He's always got a lot to say. True grit journalist. He's out there beating the pavement, getting the stories. Segment number 4, head down to Birmingham, Jocks 94.5 FM. Damian Mitchell does a morning show early in the morning. I know he's going to be on with Cole Kubelik and Greg McElroy right before he comes on with us, but he'll be on with us in the 4th segment. The pride of Maplesville, Alabama, Tommy Agee as well. But we'll be talking college football the next 2 hours. Follow us on Twitter at Sidelines_live. And remember, we're broadcasting live today from Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas, open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. You got to check out all these awesome-looking trucks they've got over here, the Ford trucks and the Toyota trucks. Can't lose. You got a win-win situation either way. Red River Ford Toyota, Wynne, Arkansas. Dudley, man, I woke up. I was getting eaten alive by mosquitoes during the night. I don't know what it was. I watched SEC Network inside Arkansas, getting ready for the South Carolina game. And that was fantastic. Just inside of Sam Pittman and all. And he is just so authentic. You can see why there's such a near complete, I'm sure, 100% buy-in of the players, the coaches, and the fans to what his vision is for Arkansas. I put no ceiling on the Razorbacks with him and this staff.
Yeah, it's certainly been a change of the culture here the last couple of years, and they're now back in the top 10. Haven't really been there. Spent a week there last year before the Georgia football game, but the last guy to have them in the top 10 will be on the opposing sideline this weekend. So that's going to be interesting.
Well, I understand that all of the mobility places and the medical places are out of neck braces in the state of Arkansas. Is that true?
Well, certainly the rumor that the students are going to wear a bunch of them, and there's been a lot of debate on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but you can't tell young kids what to do. And as a 59-year-old who really still hasn't grown up, I'm not sure that I'm the best person to tell them, what's accurate and right and all that. So,
no, I get it. I mean, and you cannot argue. Bobby Petrino can flat out coach, and Absolutely. When he was at Arkansas, he had him on an upward trajectory. And I still remember coming back around. I think we were near in Macon, Mississippi, on the way back from Orange Beach. Been down there for Easter break, and that story broke. It was everywhere. Petrino, had been in a motorcycle wreck. Of course, I don't think that's what happened, but everything changed for Arkansas. Now they are on solid ground, and I think it's going to be great. And Bobby Petrino has gone back to the Touchdown Club in Arkansas and been well received and apologized. Hey, that's all you can ask for, man. We all do stupid things as kids, as adults, and try not to do them. But you can't hold it. I don't hold grudges against anybody. I get mad for a few minutes and I'm over it. I mean, and then I figure out how to not make that happen again. And I'm not saying we're like a lot of the Pac-12 fans that after they lose a game, by the time they get to their truck in the parking lot, they're over it. Now, this is the South, man. It takes that and some Jack Daniels and a good workout, and other things to get over it. But Dudley, watching that game against South Carolina, the Hogs, Rocket Sanders, he's really good. He's got 273 yards rushing. He leads the SEC right now. Hogs' offensive line is strong. They got some secondary issues that I want you to address, but let's talk about the offense. KJ Jefferson, he loves to run. Look what happened Alabama versus Texas last Saturday. Texas lost their top two quarterbacks during the game to get injuries. I mean, Alabama, the SEC is a collision league.
Yeah, and KJ certainly had a good year so far. The offense, a couple of hiccups, but for the most part has been very efficient. Little struggles on short yardage, although they eventually end up getting into the end zone. They just take several more plays than I think they want to get there. The wide receivers have played well. Obviously, you talked about the running backs. Rocket Sanders has done a great job. He should get his running partner back there next week in Dominic Johnson, who's been cleared to play, and now it's just up to him, if he's ready to do so, which sounds strange, but it's kind of like a kid coming back and getting hit in a real football game. We know that college football practices these days are all about thudding and not tackling, and you make different turns and angles during the game. So we'll see that, but that running game should even get better. And you did mention the secondary. They have had some injuries there. They're hoping to get Miles Slusher back this week. Jalen Catalon out for the year, of course, so maybe out for his college career too as well. But I think that they feel good about what they've got, and this should be a game. And I'm not discounting the coaching ability of Coach Petrino, because he is certainly a great offensive mind.
Yeah.
But they should be able to handle this week, and then we'll see. I guess we'll see a little bit of what Texas A&M is like this weekend. Are they going to bounce back, or how are things going to go there?
Yeah, and looking at Arkansas, that first year Sam Pittman, they go 3-7. They could have been 5-5 at least, maybe 6-4. Some crazy things happen, but they showed right there the buy-in and the fight was back in the Razorback program. And I look at the way he coaches, and I use the word and the term authentic to describe Sam Pittman. You look at in the SEC East, you've got that with Mark Stoops. That's something Ben Troop said on the show Monday, made the comparison. You got Mark Stoops building that culture in the East, Pittman in the West, and they're both successful. They're both just tough guys. They're alpha males. And there's no soft culture there. I have said this all along. Nothing against Texas A&M. Got a lot of respect for them. I just don't buy them being the biggest threat to Bama in the West. You get 2 wins like Arkansas has against Cincinnati and South Carolina, Dudley. Expand on that. That's big. I don't know if that's resonating in the fan base, but you beat a playoff team. I know they lost a lot of guys. And South Carolina, this Arkansas team looks like they're maturing quicker than people thought they would.
Yeah, and touching on a point you just made there, I think, and it may sound strange, but you can't fake realness. And Coach Pittman is real, cares for the kids, but at the same time, he'll get on them. So when he does speak, they listen. I think that's gone over well. There have been some deep passes that, if they were connected, these first 2 games could have, gone a different way. But you woulda, coulda, shoulda, for a long time, But
Yeah.
The 2 wins are very good. We talked about it going on here. Talked about it going into the season. That these are tougher games than you usually start off with. And they passed the test. The only thing you can do after 2 games is be 2-0. You can't be any more. You can't get style points and all that. This is not the Russian judges and gymnastics and all that. You don't get a 9.7 for the win. You just get a win. Yeah. And so now here's another interesting matchup. We will know that Arkansas has the secondary issues, and here's a guy that knows how to throw the ball around and knows how to be very creative with routes and different things. So that's going to be a challenge, but it will also be a good learning experience for them. And we will continue to see if they continue to grow. They did make some advancements from game 1 to game 2. Better make some more from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and all that. But we fully know that Arkansas was a better football team at the end of last year than it was at the start of last year, even with the big win over Texas. So I think they'll continue to do that. And I think they'll continue to do that because this is a coaching staff that is not only has some great individuals, but they coach well together. And the offensive and defensive coordinator and Coach Pittman have been together for 3 years now. The ones that they maybe didn't think were carrying their weight, Coach Pittman swapped out with some new guys, and they feel real good about how that is going along in terms of development and actual teaching and practice.
Yeah, and you look around the SEC, it is the most competitive top to bottom league, and I'm referring to the Sun Belt as the SEC light, not as big a numbers of star players and all, but Sun Belt plays really good football. That's just life in the South. What would you tell Arkansas fans that are saying, last year the Razorbacks were 4-0, beat Texas handily, early 37-11. It was a beating. Beat Texas A&M, and then lost 3 in a row. And they were tough games. I mean, you have to go play at Georgia. I mean, last year it was just, next man up to get whacked. But this Arkansas team this year, what's different about them compared to last year's team?
What I would tell Arkansas fans, I'm smart enough, maybe not the smartest man in the room at all times, but I'm smart enough not to tell them what they should think. I will tell them what I think, and they can agree with it or disagree with it. But I think that still there are fans out there who want to win better, want to win with more style points. Think back to when they were winning 2 games a year instead of 2 games in the first 2 games. Appreciate the wins, celebrate the wins, get ready for the next week. There are some issues that the coaches will tend to adapt, but goodness gracious, you're in the top 10 in the country. Whether that's legitimate or not, we'll see as the year goes along. But this program was routinely back several years ago in that bottom 10 that was put out. I don't know if that's even out anymore. But so just enjoy what's happening. Let these guys continue to get better. Enjoy the ride. But like I said, smarter people than me have tried to tell fans what they should think, and I'm not going to do that.
Well, let me tell you something. If you ever stop writing, I know what you're going to do. You're going to go back home to Balch, Arkansas, where it all began in those fields. I love the name of Balch, Arkansas. Jimmy, I know you got some questions for Dudley, Dawson, Hogville.net, and want to say this morning, driving over here to win from parking, it is so beautiful, Dudley, on 64 as you go toward Crowley's Ridge heading west. They're out there cutting, farming 18 hours a day, and you see that ECS House Industries, equipment out there in the fields, people working 24. I think they work 24/7, but lot of Razorbacks, a lot of Razorback pride in the state. It is powerful. Jimmy?
Yeah, it's ironic that Missouri State's coming to town this week because I think Sam Pittman and Bobby Petrino in a lot of ways really have a connection, because I think the Bobby Petrino period was so important because during his time there, he showed that Arkansas could win big and what the ceiling was there. And then Sam Pittman's connection to this is that he's kind of the culmination of that when Arkansas gets the right guy. And, watching that footage on SEC Network of practice, I'll tell you one thing's obvious. He really likes Drew Sanders.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
God, he's a stud.
Yeah, and in year 3 of the Pittman era there, the offensive line is really rounding up to the type of unit that he loves to have, because they're starting to dominate the line of scrimmage and really dictate the type of plays and offense they want to run. And we talked about it last week with Jefferson. Lots of times not listening to coaches' orders and to avoid big hits and accepting, being susceptible to big hits. And I was just curious, do you see them still working on him about that and maybe limiting his carries to 8 to 12 a game? Franz Beard of Gatorbait.com mentioned that goal with Anthony Richardson, because when you have a player that valuable, man, you've got to have him on the field every play.
Yeah, I think they continue to talk about that. They get in games, and then when they need a big play, they let him, run inside and get what he needs to. But I think, the optimal thing would be for him to run 8 to 10 times a game. Maybe a couple of those break down in the passing game and all that. But I do think that still doubling back, the best thing that Coach Pittman has done this week is, in his first thing he did in Monday's press conference was laud Coach Petrino and the time when he was here. Now the fans can talk about the neck braces and the motorcycles and the blondes and all that, but I think he did a great job trying to set a tone and be classy about Coach Petrino, his ability, the great times, winning times they had here, and I think that's a good move. But it's kind of what he does all the time. He makes very few missteps.
Yeah, and look, we're going to take a quick break, come back with more. I absolutely agree with you. I mean, Bobby Petrino, everywhere he's been successful. I think it's hard for anybody coaching with the Falcons. I mean, Job would have had a hard time being patient there. So we're going to be back with more Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net with Rob Brown and Jimmy Hodge after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
Back, Rob Brown talking on the ECS House Industries Razorback Report with Dudley Dawson of Hogville.net, folks. Razorback fan, whatever fan you are, you need to be following this guy. True Grit Journalism goes out. Not only does he know about the Razorbacks, but he knows about high school football all over, especially the state of Arkansas, where his goal this year is to go to this is his goal. I mean, if he can get there, that's incredible, is to visit every high school football program in the state of Arkansas. That is why I call it True Grit Journalism. You're going out and telling the stories. Dudley, how is that quest going right now? Because we all know that recruiting is the lifeblood of every program. In this case, the Arkansas Razorbacks. Touchdown, Arkansas!
It's gone good. You forget how many football schools there are in the state. When you make a bold claim like that. But I'm getting around doing the best I can. I'm going to have my gallbladder out next week, so I feel like I'll be able to move quicker after that. But I don't understand why you have a gallbladder if you don't need it. That's caused issues. But then
the appendix too.
Yeah, that's neither here nor there. But high school football in the state has gone really well this year. They're about to get into their fourth week. Several upstart teams that maybe have not been good lately have done a good job in getting out there. And it's a true measure, and this goes back to when Coach Petrino was the coach, Coach Nutt, Coach Bielema. When the college team is doing well, the high school teams, it's the more people show up to the high school games, the quality of play is better. It's just emblematic of success at the top, bleeding down to success at the high school level.
Yeah, and like over 200 in the state of Arkansas, and it's big. I mean, we golly at the Wynn Marion game a few weeks ago. I mean, they couldn't put any more people in there. But what I'm seeing now is the tailgating. My God, there was smoke. There were so many people grilling out. It literally reminded me of the 1988 game between the Bears and the Eagles, wasn't it? The Fog Bowl there in Chicago in the playoffs. I mean, that's what's happening, and the tailgate craziness. But I know that the Razorback fans, and I'm around a lot of them, they sense that this team, they feed off of the confidence. And Jimmy alluded to it a little while ago about Sam Pittman on that inside, the SEC network does with the Razorbacks. He loves his players. They love him. He works them hard. And a lot of great coaches, all the great ones that I've ever listened to, and Jimmy and Dudley, I'm sure you would agree, their players realize eventually, I knew they loved me because they worked me so hard. And if you quit doing it, that means you've lost interest, and that's not a good situation, is it, Dudley?
No, and I think you're right there. Coach Bill Keedy at Newport, who was obviously a great coach there, a second father type thing to me. He was always on me, and I didn't get it, for a while, but then understood at the end he was just trying to make me the best that I could be, and that I didn't necessarily need to take a play off to admire what I did the last play.
Well, and you look, Dudley, at what goes on in building a program. You've got to have guys that are willing to work, and you can't go in there and just be hollering at them and yelling at them and expect them to produce. But I think a lot of people are making a mistake in today's world of saying, well, you can't be tough on these kids. Yeah, you can. That's what they want. They crave it. I've got 4 of them, man. When I'm easy and soft, they'll walk all over you. You make them work, and when they have to go work for something, they appreciate it a lot more, and they're a lot less likely to misplace something that they paid for. You know what I mean? You're buying in.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason we are so tough on our kids is, number one, because our parents are tough on us, and number two, we want what's best for them, and that is the same way with coaches. No matter what sport, there's no you don't need to be woke in college and college football. You need to be successful, and then you're making not only memories for the present in trying to win football games and all that, but you're building men for the future. And I think sometimes that gets forgotten.
Yeah. And how many people go back to their middle school, high school football coaches that were tough as nails on them, and they go, man, I am so glad for that. I've got a brother-in-law, Kurt Ham, 27 years in the Marine Corps. He didn't send Christmas presents to his drill instructor from Paris Island, but he's our age, Dudley. And Kurt, he reminds me a lot of Billy Jack, that character Tom Laughlin played. You'd never know, but Kurt was in Fallujah. He was in all those places, tough as nails. But you think about, he said, yeah, that guy, I hated his guts every day, but the more I hated him, the harder I worked. I was like, that's the coaching. But anyway, Jimmy, we got Dudley Dawson on here, hogville.net. Go ahead with another question. And Dudley, this great stuff with you. Hey, everybody in Newport/Balch, Arkansas, salute. How are you?
Dudley, I wanted to talk about the defensive side of the ball because the loss of Catalan to me is just absolutely enormous. I thought as early as last year and even his freshman year, he's really the best free safety in college football, and to lose him, I mean, you don't replace a guy like that. You just try to, bring somebody in that can play at as high a level as possible. but it just seemed like kind of an under the radar announcement. And lots of times when a player like that gets injured, you tend to notice it right away. And lots of times the announcers will be all over it. And it just, it kind of slipped up on me. And I just wanted to, get an idea of what caused the injury. And there's nothing you can do about it, obviously, now. But how important is it for the Hogs to have a really strong outing in the secondary these next couple of weeks before, you face Alabama? Because right now, A&M really seems to be struggling with their passing game. So these next two weekends, I think, may give the Hogs a chance to really test some of their younger players in the secondary and have some success.
Yeah, first of all, Jalen Catalan is a great young man. Does a lot in the community, not only here but back where he's from in Texas. You hate it for him, but clearly you look at that, the current injury sure appears to me to be, a reoccurrence of the old injury. And yes, they kept it very quiet, until the Saturday they wanted to make an announcement. It got out a little bit early there, but that's it's neither here nor there. But yes, that's a big hole. Now, the one thing they did do over the course of the offseason was get in that portal, got some defensive backs. Latavius Brinney, who played at Georgia, started for 11 games, has come in, caused a fumble last week. There was a big fumble in the ball game. You've got Dwight McLaughlin, a cornerback who has 2 interceptions in 2 games, both big ones at big times. So they fortunately, are better off than they could have been, but there's no one here that's going to say that Arkansas is better off without Jalen than it would be with him. As you said, a heck of a football player. He will now have his surgery. Coach Pittman has given him time off from coming to the media, to the Royal Center and all that. And it's just one of those things that you feel sorry for him. But I do feel like they have capable people who have played in SEC games, played in big SEC games, that have the opportunity to bond together as a unit and get better back there. Keon Parker is a cornerback that I think we're going to see more of. So we're about to see some younger guys get their opportunity in addition to some older guys who have been there. But there's no doubt whatsoever that was a crushing blow to the kid and a crushing blow to the team, not only in terms of, being able to play better as a defense, but they just feel sorry for him.
Well, and that's the thing about it. Jimmy, you played college football, and Dudley, you've been around it. We've all been around it. You see a guy get hurt. And I remember a friend of mine that played for Auburn got hurt in the Iron Bowl on the kickoff thing. Bobby Humphrey ran into him head on, knee to knee. And he rehabbed, came back right before the Texas game in '87, was doing a, drill and tore his knee up, missed the entire '87 season. Came back in '88 as a starter and ended up having a great year and on a defense that led the nation. Shan Morris was his name. His dad, Larry, was an All-American at Georgia Tech and played for George Halas, was All-Pro with the Bears. But I remember talking to him about that. He said, people just do not understand. They just think a torn ACL, like, it's drinking a Coke. I mean, it takes you, what people always tell me is it takes about 85-90% of the healing comes 3 or 4 months. It's that other 15 to 20%. You're terrified. It's the psychological part about it. So I pray for, Jalen Catlin, that he is going to be okay and he gets his career, off. But I watched him, just the way he interacted with KJ Jefferson. He's what we want more of in college football.
Yeah. Speaking of Newport, we had a young man named Billy Warren, outstanding tailback, carried us during his years there, and he was signed by the University of Arkansas. I think would have been one of the better running backs that they've had here, but was hurt in the All-Star game and was never what he could be. And that's the thing that you hurt most for these kids. I don't care whether this football team wins or loses up here. That can't be my focus, but you feel sorry for kids, like especially the kids who put forth the effort and get out there in the community and do that. And he's certainly, Jalen Catalan's one of those.
Well, I mean, and again, Dudley, we've unfortunately run out of time. I love having you on here, but you're what's good about the college game. You write about the people, the coaches, and the stories, and we need more of it. We need more Dudley Dawsons out there. They're hard to find, and I'm just glad you're part of the Sidelines team. Tell people how they can follow you. You put out great stuff, and we'll do this again next week, talking about the Arkansas-Missouri State game on the next ECS House Industries Razorback Report.
Well, I work for Hogville.net, the largest sports message board and site in the state of Arkansas, and I'd like to thank the best. Also, FearlessFriday.com, which covers the high school games. You can see my Twitter handle there on the screen, which is Dudley Eugene Dawson, and I thought it was better just to go Dead Sports. So,
I love that. Now we know why.
Yes. Named after my uncle, Eugene Johnson. So yes, Dead Sports, is what you get. And you'll occasionally hear me talking about different things, the Cardinals, Cowboys, Celtics, and all that. And also, before I get off here, I just want to publicly say thanks again to Coach Shane Beamer at South Carolina for calling me this week. He didn't have to ask a question. He was frustrated. I didn't think anything about it, but that shows his character, his class, calling me this week, and I wish him the best of luck. Seems like a great guy.
Yeah, I mean, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Frank Beamer, Shane Beamer. I'm with you. Like I said, got a brother-in-law that played for the Hokies, 2 nieces and a nephew that graduated from Tech. You're right. See, you're pointing that out. We need more of that. Speaking of funny names, my grandfather and his brother are from Helena, Arkansas. My grandfather's name was Greenfield Quarles Polk. How about that name? And then his brother's name was Cadwallader Leonidas Polk. So they called him Cad, and my grandfather, we called him Ganna or Greenfield. But hey,
you will never catch me getting on anybody about their name because I'm named after a cartoon character. So
I love it. All right, go Hogs. Dudley Dawson, thanks so much. Have a great week.
You too.
All right, that is great stuff. And now let's switch gears, head down to Tuscaloosa. Gary Harris, WVUA Channel 23. This man works, I think, 18 hours a day, 8 days a week. And also Tide 100.9 does a great radio show. Get that app, Tide 100.9. I've got it on my phone. You'll get an alert every time the show's on. But Gary, last week, man, Alabama went on the road, and you've got some Larry Munson in you, man. You're like going, I don't know. Everybody's saying, it's going to be no. As well as I do, and Jimmy knows, and everybody listening with brain matter knows. When you go to play Texas, you're going to get a full 60. If you're Alabama, you're going to get everybody in the country's full 60 because you're probably the biggest game ever on campus for some schools and more the biggest game of the year. But you know what? Got to give Alabama credit. Alabama won the game, and there's a lot to coach up on, a lot of penalties and stuff like that. But let's get your takeaways. You know a lot more than anybody.
Well, thanks, Rob. And I do remember going back and forth with Jimmy a little bit last week about how difficult I thought the game, the potential for that game in Austin was. And, we're just at a point in time with, depending on where you're at with your program, that winning doesn't seem to be enough at some places. Yeah. And, it's almost, God forbid what would have happened if they lost the game, because it's been almost like a loss around here this week. And I've heard people on, different outlets refer to Texas a couple times as, like they won the game, almost like it was a victory for them. So, I'm more along the line of Nick Saban. I mean, respect winning, and don't apologize for winning. It's hard to win. As I said last week to you guys, maybe 6 or 7, 8 games from now, Texas won't be as difficult a game. I'm not sure. I think they're pretty good. I think they got some talent. I don't think Tom Herman got fired for lack of talent. I think he got fired because the results didn't match the recruiting that he had.
Yeah. And
Sark's come in there and recruited well. And they got good players. Now, are they as good a football team as Alabama? No. But I do think that, as we've talked about on your show, the best team doesn't always win. That's the whole idea why you play the game. So I thought last Saturday in that environment on that day from, after 11 o'clock to after 2:30 Central Time, Texas, to me, looked like a top 10 team. Doesn't mean they're a top 10 team. Not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think they got the potential to be pretty good, but that was a tough game for Alabama. Do I think Alabama could have played better? Absolutely. Do I think that they will learn some things from that game? They better, or in a couple of weeks when they go to Fayetteville, they will get beat, because I think Arkansas is a better team than Texas. But that day, Texas was good, and Alabama found a way to win the game, like you said, Rob, and there should be some credit given for that.
Yeah.
And I don't sense that that's the case. I mean, all I've heard this week is, well, Alabama better do this, or Alabama's been exposed. You know, Alabama won the game. And as Coach Saban referred to, a couple of teams that are 20-plus point favorites didn't. Texas A&M didn't. Notre Dame didn't.
Yeah.
Nebraska, we know that's a totally different situation. Their coaches, Scott Frost is gone.
Gary,
they played Georgia Southern, and they didn't win.
Hold those thoughts. We're going to take a quick break. You're right. They won, and that's all that matters. And they go on to the next one. They're undefeated. More after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
Gary, you're making a great point about don't fail to appreciate winning. And I got to say, I mean, my wife, a lifelong Tennessee fan, I remarried and I started taking her to Auburn games a few years ago. And she goes, I've never seen fans like this. Y'all win a game 38-3 or 38-7, and everybody's pouting because the other team scored. She goes, you don't even want them to have the other team to have the ball. And I said, now my fourth kid, Mallory's an Alabama graduate. I mean, it's like, the games in a crazy sort of way. It's like, well, we win 56 to nothing. I mean, it's boring. It's almost like, but you're winning. There are going to be times when you're struggling. Look around the SEC. I mean, Auburn fans are, right now on had a 5-game losing streak to end last season. What Nick Saban's right. Hey man, we won the game. And Bryce Young, I call him Bryce Montana. He's Joe Montana. This guy finds more excuses to win than about any quarterback out there. I mean, in recent memory.
Yeah, I think Bryce Young was the difference in the game on Saturday. A couple more things about Texas and Quinn Ewers and going out of the game. That was certainly unfortunate. Although Hudson Card's very, very, experienced, was starter last year, battled right down to the wire with Ewers this year for the starting job. So I don't know what would have happened. It's true. The first quarter, Ewers was unbelievable. He was lighting Alabama up. Now, you'd like to think Alabama would have made some adjustments, namely going into more zone coverage, because that guy's going to eat man-to-man coverage up with the way he throws the football. And being a young quarterback, I didn't really understand Alabama's defensive philosophy coming out man-to-man. As far as Bryce Young is concerned, you're right, Rob. I mean, he's cool as a cucumber. He's I remember last year in the Iron Bowl, you got to go 97 yards with a little more than a minute to go and no timeouts, and they're at 6 plays in or whatever, they're in Auburn territory and they're facing that fourth down to keep the game going, and he's just laughing. I mean, he's just enjoying the moment. He's just the same way against Texas. I mean, they call a perfect defense. They call a corner blitz. The guy's unblocked. He's got a clean shot at a quarterback who can't be over 190 pounds. And Bryce makes him miss. And not only does he make him miss, but then he takes off on a 20-yard scramble, which basically won the game, because that put Alabama in chip shot field goal range for Reichard. So, yeah, as long as you got number 9, you got a chance. And getting back to where we were at before we took the break, again, I understand what a close game it was. I watched it, and it was, Alabama could have easily lost that game. If you're a Texas fan, you're saying that they should have lost that game. But I've watched a lot of games, Rob and Jimmy, you know what I'm talking about. I've watched a lot of games when Alabama should have won. And a team, hit a miracle play or what have you and found a way to beat Alabama. So the Iron Bowl, this game against Texas, sometimes it's good to be on the other side of that. Sometimes it's good to rip somebody's guts out instead of getting your guts ripped out. And, what Alabama's done over the last 15 years, I say this all the time on my show, it's not the norm. This is not the way this system is set up. People aren't supposed to do this. And you get, you don't mean to get spoiled, but you do get a little spoiled to the point where winning the game just isn't enough. And I don't know that Alabama is going to beat everybody by 50 points this year. That team that I watched last Saturday in Austin, there are going to be some more struggles going forward. As I said, they've got ULM this weekend, and then they open SEC play at home against Vanderbilt. And then, in 16 days when they go to Fayetteville, they better be ready to strap it on and play well, because if they don't play better than they played in Austin, then they will lose that football game. I think Arkansas is better than Texas, and they're going to be sitting there waiting for Alabama. So Alabama's got to get better. But you know what? Like every other team in America, Alabama's allowed to get better too. This is not necessarily the team that we're seeing right now that he's going to have in November. We'll see what happens. But last year, they barely got out of the swamp with a victory. They got beat at Texas A&M. LSU was a close game. Obviously, the Iron Bowl was a close game. Even Tennessee made a little run late in that game. But Alabama won the SEC championship, won a college football playoff semifinal game, and played for the national championship. So, it hasn't always been they beat people, by 50 points every time. Alabama's lost games. Alabama's had scares, and they had one on Saturday out there in Austin, Texas. We'll see what happens going forward. But I don't know. Again, maybe I'll look at it differently. I've always said I'd probably be a good coach because I worry about, when they're playing anybody.
Yeah.
But I was pretty pleased to see Alabama get out of there with a win.
Yeah. Gary, here's something before we go to Jimmy. When LSU, and I say this, but it's worth repeating, when LSU beat Texas 3 years ago in 2019 on the road, true road game, that's the first time in 130 years of football since 1892. That's the first and only time LSU's ever won a true road game against a top 10 opponent. Texas was in the top 10 at that time. Alabama, with an incredible tradition, that they have. How many wins do they have on the road versus top 10 teams not in the SEC? I mean, that's don't short sell the importance of getting that win at Texas, because I had a friend of mine was telling me about the crowd out there, and he said every Texas fan, his brother played there, he said they've never seen it like that in the modern era. I mean, it's re-energized. So you got everything Texas could throw at you, and you got to win. That makes a team better when you win those close games. It really does.
Yeah, real quick, and I know Jimmy's coming up. I like what you said about that, because I talked to some people out there that told me the same thing, that all their years going to UT football games, they had never seen it that jacked for any game. And again, I think we talked about this last week. If Texas goes on and loses a few games, then people will look back and say, they could barely beat Texas. Well, it's about, you said this last week, Robin, you're 100%. It's about the day you play the game, the matchup on that day. And all I'm saying is, regardless of what happens with Texas going forward, that Saturday morning at 11 a.m., that was a good football team. And they were ready to play, and they were prepared. And they'd had Gary Patterson as a defensive analyst working on Alabama all summer long. And they gave it all they had, and Alabama found a way to win the game. And I'm not going to dismiss that or make it more elementary. Or make it elementary. I think it's a big deal to go out there in that environment and find a way to win the game. And I think Alabama deserves credit for that.
Jimmy.
No, I agree with that. I think I can say with total confidence that since the second year of the Saban era, Alabama is the most scrutinized college football program that I've ever seen, not only by the national media, but by their own fan base. And it's been because of the tremendous success that Saban has brought there. And Alabama literally is judged like an NFL team week to week as far as their performance is concerned against each opponent. So, Yeah, it was a huge win to beat Texas. Texas looked like a team that had been preparing for this game for 8 months, and they literally were. Sarkisian had a brilliant game plan.
Sure did.
They had Alabama off balance defensively all day. And you combine the fact, and it didn't hit me because we were talking with Rodney before the game, and he thought it would be just a little bit cooler than expected in Austin. But they showed a temperature on the sidelines, and it was 120 degrees in like the second quarter. So it was not ideal out there. You know, those players were they were getting toasted out there. But yeah, I mean, Alabama, you know, they adjusted. Texas was as good as anybody in the country on Saturday. I mean, again, they had been pointing to this game, and yeah, you cannot ignore the fact that bringing Gary Patterson in as a consultant was just a genius move. Their defense was excellent. They were continually confusing the Alabama offensive linemen on their rushing stunts. And again, that fourth quarter, it reminded me of the Iron Bowl. Bryce Young just took over the game and made plays that other quarterbacks can't make. And Gary, the play in which he escaped the blitz, that was an Ohio State transfer portal guy that he got away from. Mm-hmm. And again, he's just so calm and collected, and you just can't take for granted how valuable he is to this program. And yeah, they can really use this to really gain a lot of confidence. But you are absolutely right. If they're not better than they were Saturday, they'll come out on the short end in Fayetteville, and I'm sure Saban and the staff know that, and they know they have a lot of things to work on. And how clutch is Reichert?
Well, it's been a long time since Alabama's had a kicker that you felt like you could count on. That's how clutch he is. I mean, Saban pointed out something here recently that he had never been around a kicker that did what Reichert did. I think because it was the pandemic year and Alabama was just so dominant for the most part, other than the game against Ole Miss. Even though they won the game, they had their hands full in that one. But 2 years ago, he didn't miss a kick, guys. I mean, he did not miss a kick. He didn't miss a point after touchdown. He did not miss a field goal attempt. He was perfect. So it's a huge difference. You know, you look back at some of those dominant teams that Alabama had, 2011, 2012, 2015. There were seasons where if they'd had a kicker, the kick six game in 2013 at Auburn never comes down to a kick six. If Alabama can make a field goal, I mean, Cade Foster that day, I think he missed 5 of them. And, of course, the one that he made they got a penalty for some phantom illegal procedure call that nobody's still seen anybody move. But, there's been a lot of years where the only thing that they didn't have that they could count on was a place kicker. Now, and they're going to need him because they may have a few more games like this. You're absolutely right, Jimmy. It is good to have a guy like Will Reichert, who is just a tremendous place kicker and very, very accurate. And, he had to make that kick twice. As we know, Sark pulled the timeout card on the first one, and then you got to sit there and come back and make it. There's been a lot of years where Alabama would have run a kicker out there, and you'd have been scared to death, or you'd have. I remember in the national championship game against Georgia, the Tua game, Alabama had a chance to win that game in regulation. And remember, the kicker missed it so bad, it would have been blocked, except he pulled it so bad nobody could block it. Didn't get him about 4 feet off the ground. But yeah, Reichert's clutch. And getting back to Bryce Young, I've watched them all come through here since Saban's been here. I've watched every one of them, every one of the quarterbacks, and they, whether it was Greg McElroy or A.J. McCarron, Blake Sims, Jake Coker, Jalen Tua, Mac Jones, all brought something to the table in the last few years. Of course, they've had a run of NFL guys. But I haven't seen one better than Bryce. I think when you combine the ability to throw the football, elusiveness, he can run when he needs to, eyes downfield, just as Rob said earlier, just so cool and collected. He's the best one I've seen. I think he's the best quarterback that Nick Saban's had here.
Bryce Montana. I mean, Bryce is ice. That's what he
is.
And did you see the athleticism, the bend of his body? When he was falling back, and he has a whip for an arm.
Yeah.
You look back to the Iron Bowl, 97 yards from the other end zone, and he does that. In that crowd.
Yeah.
I mean, and you have to look. I'm an Auburn grad, you know that, but you have to call it like it is. You have to be a truth broker. There's two kinds of people. You got people that'll tell you what they think you want to hear, tell you the truth. That was just as good as it gets. I mean, for a college player to do that, and he likes carrying that team on his back. But you know what's interesting similarities? You go back, Steve Spurrier's Florida teams, no one knew the name of the kicker. You know, he was like, anonymous. It was like the witness protection program if you were a field goal kicker at Florida during the heyday of Spurrier. Same thing with Alabama, but Will Reichard now, Jimmy's right, and both of y'all are. This guy is going to make a difference in a couple of games this year for Alabama to win. He did. I mean, again, I've been to games at Texas. Jimmy, you've been to games at Texas. Man, those folks out there got a lot of pride. And I mean, there's a lot of hot air just from all their, but still that a win like that on the road can pull a team together. And let's face it, these are 18 to 22-year-olds. They've been reading about themselves and everybody's been telling them how great they are, for months. And that might be the best thing that happened to Alabama. It's kind of a wake up, It's like, I didn't have insurance, but boy, I got away with one, but I went and bought some. They'll be back.
Yeah, I think this, Rob, I think that, Saban has talked about this a lot. You hope that you don't have to suffer a loss, to learn a lesson. And in this case, it feels a lot like a loss around here this week, but it wasn't. At the end of the day, it was a win. And the only thing that it cost them was the top spot in the AP poll, which is very trivial at this point. So, yeah, you've got to get better. But like I said earlier, teams that aren't good are not the only teams that are allowed to get better throughout the season. Teams that are pretty good are allowed to get better too. And hopefully Alabama will, because, Jimmy said it. If they don't play better in 2 weeks in Fayetteville, they're going to lose that football game. And, they've got ULM tomorrow, and then their SEC opener against Vanderbilt, which is the easiest SEC opener that you can have in the league. And they've got 2 weeks to really get themselves in a mindset, in a position to improve, and then go into an incredible hostile environment. Because the thing I noticed about Arkansas watching them play, in addition to being physical and fast and the quarterback's a load, is the swagger. Sam Pitt, they believe. They're not running out there hoping to win. They're not running out there, let's give it all we got. They're running out there with the mindset, we're going to win the football game. And they've got, the job that he's done there is tremendous. And when Alabama rolls up in there, the Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium in 16 days, Arkansas will be waiting with a plan to win the game. So to me, that's what's in front of Alabama. Use these next 2 games, get some things figured out, make some corrections, and then have a mindset to go match the intensity and the physicality that they're going to face against Arkansas.
Gary, you also said something last week, one of the smartest things you've brought up. You said, if Texas isn't a good team, they don't know it. They hadn't got the memo, so they don't know they're not a great team yet.
Exactly right. When you play one of these teams early in the year, as I said, if it turns out they lose 3 or 4 games, people will pile on and you look back, well, I haven't played anybody. Yeah. But I guarantee you, there's a lot of teams in the country that would have lost that game on Saturday to that Texas team. So we'll see what happens with Texas. My gut feeling is that they finally got it right. Texas is a program, and I got to go in a minute, but Texas is a program a lot like Alabama. The blue blood programs, Rob and Jimmy, it's important to a lot of people. Eventually, those programs seem to get it right because they're going to keep trying until they do. They're going to keep pouring resources into the program. And I think with Sark, they've got it right. I mean, the only thing that derailed him was, some personal issues with the bottle out in Los Angeles. He was on the fast track in Seattle when he was at Washington. He got that USC job, and then he kind of lost his way. But he is a fabulous football coach. He is. And they've got good players, and they're going to get more good players. So they're coming into the SEC at the right time. Their program, I think, is going to be in good shape when they come into the league. Yeah,
Gary, we just got a couple of seconds before the break. Love having you on here. Follow Gary on Twitter. Give him your handle and Tide 100.9 WVUA 23. Gary, well,
thanks, guys.
Yeah, you bet. Look forward to having you back on next week. Let's take a quick break. Be right back after this with more Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
Jimmy, along the lines of that discussion with Gary Harris just now about Alabama, when Nick Saban's 179-25 at Alabama, that record is unbelievable. But it's kind of like when you know someone who has a ton of money, or a kid that grows up in a family with a ton of money. What do you give them for their birthday or for Christmas? What do you give someone who seemingly has it all? That's like, people that know the cost of everything and the value of nothing. And I think I'm telling you, when you're winning like Alabama fans have been doing the last 15 years, I mean, when Nick Saban leaves, if there's any kind of a drop off, which typically there is when you have a coach like that leaves, you don't want to be the guy that replaces him. You want to be the guy that replaces the guy that replaced Nick Saban, or whoever the legend is that's been there for a long time, had that kind of success. It's psychologically, there are going to be a lot of people needing to go to the head shrink on that one, because you've got fans, and I hear them, and we all hear them on some of these shows. I mean, the stupidity of people that say the season's a disaster if you don't win the national championship. Your goal is to win every game. But, you can't look at it like that. I mean, why don't you do this? I'll tell you what, next time I hear one of these people out there saying that, I'm going to take them into the locker room with the Alabama team, the Auburn team, Georgia, whoever it is, after the game. Let them say that to those guys' faces. Say, guys, y'all just wasting our time, man. You lost a game. You were 11-1. Y'all are losers. Go do that. And move out of your parents' basement or guest house and get a job. Quit playing video games and living vicariously like this. I mean, if you've played sports, you know how hard it is, Jimmy, and you have, and I have, in business, whatever you do, when you've got people who really don't do anything themselves, most of those are the worst critics of all, aren't they?
Well, yeah, but that's just part of it. I mean, everybody that's involved in college football, from the players to the coaches at the Power 5 level, I mean, they know that's baked into the cake. I mean, that's just part of the deal. And I think most of those individuals are good with that. They understand it. And I think they really focus just on trying to do their job the best they can every day, whether it's on game day or whether it's the next day, reviewing tape. And then when you get on the practice field on Monday and getting ready for the next opponent, you want to correct the errors that you made 2 days earlier and just try to get better. So again, it's just part of it. We know the incredible media exposure that exists now is light years more than it used to be. But I think a lot of these kids, growing up that watched college football and followed teams they dreamed of playing for, I think they're kind of used to it because they kind of realize the pressure that these players are under. But in the SEC, multiply that by 50, because when you've won 19 national championships in the last 50 years, you just realize that's part of it. So again, I think it's just something that you maybe wish wasn't taken so seriously, but the fact is it is, and you just go about your business and, do the best you can. And I think these players and coaches, for the most part, are able to do exactly that.
Yeah. Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, the media guides, is on with us right now from over in Atlanta. And I know you travel a lot, going all over the country, canvassing the nation for college football games. And Tony, we've had a really lively discussion talking about that Texas-Alabama game, a lot of talk about Arkansas and the SEC, but it's college football. And Mr. College Football, what are your takeaways up to this point? And again, thank you for taking time out of your Thursday to join us on Sidelines. We are always very, very, very grateful.
Well, you bet. And I think, in the first 3 weeks, for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, what we've learned is there are good football players everywhere.
Yeah.
And if you're not ready to play, which Texas A&M and was obviously not ready to play, nor was Notre Dame, nor was Nebraska, and you can get beat by anybody. The gap between the Power Five and the top part of the Group of Five, the gap is getting smaller because of things like the transfer portal, and I think it's good for college football.
Tony, you just said what we've been saying, but you said it in better than before, because I've been saying I love to see college football good all over the country, but you're right. People keep talking about the gap is widening. I'm like, no, it's not. And you spent some time in North Carolina. You know about Appalachian State. I don't know if you covered Jerry Moore or whatever, but the history. That is a proud history at a proud school. And I don't think they like the way the folks at Yale practice out in College Station were talking about them. It's that was not. I mean, it's all. There were 56 players on the Texas A&M roster ranked 4 or 5 stars. You know how many Appalachian State had that was a 4-star or 5-star? One. Who won that game? It's about, you cannot measure heart. You cannot measure drive. You cannot measure just pride in that Mountaineer program. It's just amazing.
Well, my good friend Tim Brando pointed this out earlier this week, and it's this. There's a lot more parity in college football than people know about. And the reason they don't know about it is they don't see it in the postseason. Only 4 teams can go. Here's a stat for you. In the first 7 years of the college football playoff, that's 4 bids a year. That's 28 bids in the first 7 years. Of those 28 bids, 22 went to 5 schools. Only 6 were elsewhere. And so it's just, that's why we need a 12-team playoff, and we need it now as quickly as we can get to it. Hopefully this 2024, but it's only going to get better. It's only going to happen more and more because of the transfer portal.
Yeah, and along the lines of the portal, I like to see people stick it out, but if people have always transferred. I mean, Larry, you remember, and we all do, Jimmy, guys that go to a school. I mean, I remember Miles Smith, White Lightning, they called him, from Roswell, Georgia, defensive back at Auburn, came down to Auburn, big time recruit, and he transferred. And I remember in 1985 watching Bo Jackson hit him and escort him into the goal line. Guys have been transferring forever, but what it's doing, I'm with you. And Tony, I want you to address this. The people that are criticizing going from a 4 to a 12-team playoff, that no longer will perfection be the goal. Oh yeah, it will. College is all about the pride, and as Ivan Mazel said on this show, love of the laundry. But what you said, and Tim Brando, you're right. This is great. This is exactly the best thing. This is the best thing to happen to college football.
Right, because people get to see more and more program. And think about this. That stat I just quoted you about 22 of 28 bids going to the same 5 schools. You don't think that's an inherent advantage in recruiting? So you're recruiting against another school. You've been to the playoffs 2 or 3 times. They've been none. That's an incredible advantage. So I think now with a 12-team playoff, you got 12 schools every year that can walk into a living room and say, we have been to the college football playoff. And I think that can only be good for the overall health of the game.
Yeah, it really is. And I think about that as I get ready to head down after the show today, heading down to Auburn for the Penn State game. And I don't care what Vegas says, I'm going to watch Auburn play. They just happen to be playing Penn State, Jimmy.
Exactly. That's what sets college football aside. That makes it unique. I mean, the NFL is the greatest athletes in the world. They're wonderful, but college has a different emotional component to it, and that's why people love it so much.
Yeah, and you can't get like you talking about your three fraternity brothers that go down to the Georgia-Florida game every year. You don't miss it. I mean, there's something sacred and special about that. Not that they don't have that in the NFL, but you go to an NFL game. I remember being at a Jets-Giants game up at the Meadowlands one time. It reminded me of being at the Mid-South Coliseum on a Monday night for a Monday night wrestling. I mean, there were at least 200 fights, and most of those people were shirtless and about 30 beers into the night. Jimmy, jump in here. Jimmy, are you there? Okay.
I am.
Okay, yeah.
To piggyback on what you were talking about in regard to the expansion of the playoff, how surprised were you a couple of weeks ago when the playoff board of managers, in essence, the college presidents, decided just to take over that narrative? They were not happy with the pace in which the commissioners, specifically Phillips, Warren, and Kliakoff, kind of short-circuited that 12-team playoff movement last year, and they just decided we're going to take charge of this. And although it's not a certainty, I think it's very likely that for the 24 season, you're going to see the 12-team playoff come into reality a couple of years early. How surprised were you by this really aggressive move by the presidents? And do you think the playoff will come a couple of years earlier than we originally thought after that alliance announcement last year?
Well, first of all, I was very surprised because, look, this same exact deal that the president said they wanted to do was on the table in January, and three conferences voted against it. I saw Commissioner Sankey the day after this happened. I said, "What changed?" He says, "I am not the person to ask that question. ask the people who voted against it." But yes, I was surprised, and I think when the presidents have basically said to the commissioners, we want you to do everything in your power to do this. That's a great motivator. Why did the presidents do it? I don't think that's a very complicated question. They looked at the number of dollars that were going to be left on the table every year that's not a 12-team college football playoff. Specifically, we're talking about 24 and 25. How much money was going to be left on the table if this didn't get done? The other thing, in an interview, Dr. Mark Keenum of Mississippi State, president, who's in charge of the presidents, he told Paul Feinbaum, and this makes perfect sense, the window of opportunity to do this in 24 was closing, and it was closing fast. And that's why the president said, hey, if we don't do something about this, we won't, by the time we get to a consensus, we won't be able to do it. So do everything you can to make it happen now. And that's where we are.
Yeah. And you look at it, when last year that was purely a knee-jerk reaction from the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12. They formed a so-called alliance, the Axis powers. So much for that. When the Big Ten poached Southern Cal and UCLA to come to the Big Ten, and it's all happening for a lot of good reasons. And Tony, the playoff, if they're making $450 million a year now, is it likely going to be 1.35 million when you go to a 12-team playoff? Is it going to be less or more? What do you think?
I think it'll be right at $1 billion when all is said and done. Because you go from a 3-team playoff, two semifinals and a final, you go from that to having an 11-game playoff, a first round, a quarterfinal round, a semifinal, and a final. That's 11 games. So that's putting on 11 games instead of 3 games, and the rise of the revenue will be significant.
Do you think that when people try to, I remember when Florida State 30 years ago was flirting with joining the SEC, a lot of people I remember were saying, well, they've got to go to the ACC. The basketball money's so big. Think about this. The whole March Madness with all those games and everything, which is 3 weeks, it's awesome. They make about $1 billion. You're talking about 12 teams in a college football playoff to make $1 billion.
Right.
anyone that doesn't think football is what makes the grass grow is a living brain donor, in my opinion.
Right. No, football is the driving engine, and everybody knows that.
Yeah.
So yeah, listen, the NCAA does a great job with the basketball tournament, and I hope they'll continue to do that.
Yeah.
But in the engine that drives all of college sports is football because it funds everything else.
Yeah. Do you think there's any chance that the NCAA, we're having some good things happen, go from a 4 to a 12 team playoff? Do you think there's a possibility they'll take the 85 scholarships in football, put them on a separate island because of Title IX, the way they do it, to where we can fully fund baseball and other men's sports?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been saying they need to fund baseball. I don't know why that has been such a slow thing to happen. I don't think from a legal standpoint you can do that. Matter of fact, I know you can't do it. You can't put those 85 off to the side and say, well, those don't count against our total because at our educational institution, that's not the way that Title IX is written.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't see that as feasible.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it's nothing against the women's sports. I'm just looking at it from a profitability. And, we wiped out wrestling in the SEC. And you think about how good it was. We had, Auburn had won 39 SEC titles. Sweet Umbaugh was a legend. Tom Milkovich was the coach in 81. But because of Title IX, they had to take it out. But
right.
I'm just looking, Tony, and we got a couple of minutes before the break. Then we want to come back, got some more for you with Jimmy. But when you look at this college football season right now, Georgia is at number 1. Your thoughts about this team and the step up in play of Stetson Bennett, the pride of Blackshear, Georgia, yet another South Georgia boy done well in the Classic City.
Well, I had Georgia number 3 preseason, Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, and Georgia 3. Then I went to go see Georgia play against Oregon.
Yeah.
They were quite good.
Yes.
And then I said, no, that's the best team in the country right there. And so the next week, this is before Alabama played Texas and all that stuff. The next week, I put Georgia at number 1 because I thought, based on what I'd seen, they were the best team in the country. Stetson Bennett, I may have told you guys this story. I'm at the Georgia-Florida game last year with my boys, and we're tailgating. And a Georgia fan who I did not know just walked up to me and said, well, Tony, you know that there is no way that Georgia can win a national championship with Stetson Bennett as our quarterback. And I said, dude, I don't know that at all. I said, I think the guy's pretty good. And, oh, by the way, you're undefeated. And so it's just amazed me how many different people doubt this guy. And every time they doubt him, he just finds a way to win football games.
Yeah. Yeah. And okay, we're going to take a break here. And I'm hoping somebody, could be you, could be our good friend Lauren Smith, the pride, along with Herschel of Wrightsville, Georgia, going to write a book, because kids out there that are flirting with giving up, this is a guy that went to junior college, Jones over in Mississippi, came back again, was told, maybe you ought to concentrate on your studies, find something else to do. But he hung in there and he fought. He found excuses to win. And you look at him, he's maybe 5'10". It doesn't matter. You cannot measure the size of the fight in that bulldog. And there's just nothing like it. That's why we love college football. More with Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, and Jimmy Hodge right after this quick 1-minute break.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
thing. We're back with Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, Rob Brown, and Jimmy Hodge. And the sun comes up in the morning, and when you got Tony Barnhart on, you're gonna find things to get excited about. I love that statement. The gap's narrowing between the Power Five and the Group of Five. We're not going to see App State go on the road and beat everybody they play, or Marshall or Georgia Southern. But man, this is exciting, and it keeps you glued to the TV set. On Saturdays, we're up at the crack of dawn to watch games until 1:45 in the morning, like we did last week to watch Mississippi State beat Arizona. NFL football, you're right, Tony. Greatest athletes, they're incredible. But I'm rolling around, dozing off, in and out of sleep. There's just nothing like the adrenaline of college versus the stoicism, per se, of college, of pro football. There's just no comparison. Jimmy, jump in here.
Yeah, Tony, I wanted to talk about one of the iconic programs in college football history and your analysis of what they're going to do, and that's Nebraska. First of all, I am wondering if you were as surprised as I was that Nebraska could have saved themselves $7.5 million had they waited until October 1st to pull the plug on Frost. But yet I have seen a really impressive list of prospective candidates that would be really interested in that job. And how quickly, I know it's hard to give a precise time frame, do you think Nebraska would start to make strides if they get the right guy? And then also with, Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman had never had any head coaching experience. And again, Chip Kelly had, Brian Kelly had experience all the way down from Division II, Grand Valley State, Central Michigan, Cincinnati, Notre Dame. And you replace him, with a young, inexperienced coach, and he's the first coach to ever start 0-3 at Notre Dame. How would you analyze those two situations?
Well, first of all, at Nebraska, I continue to be amazed that Scott Frost couldn't get it done there. He was the favorite son. He led them to a national championship as a player, had success at UCF, and why it didn't work is just beyond me, but it didn't. And it's an indicator that the fact that Trev Alberts was willing to eat $7.5 million to end this now tells you how bad things were. In terms of who they hired, they've got to get somebody. You got to get somebody who can rally, do two things: rally and the troops, get everybody back on the same page, and recruit at the level to compete at the Big Ten. They're in the right division of the Big Ten. Okay, they're not in the East. They're in the West. They're not in there with Michigan and Michigan State and Penn State and Ohio State. They're in the other division. So they should be able to do that, but it's got to be somebody who is a relentless recruiter, and they need some kind of offensive identity. So that's it. And I will say this, it's got to be a home run hire. You can't elevate somebody from an assistant coaching level or something like that. You got to get somebody who will come in and start over. And I think you're talking about, I will not be surprised if they take a look at Mark Stoops of Kentucky. He played at Iowa. He's a Midwestern guy. Grew up in Ohio. 10 years at Kentucky, has done a great job. I think Matt Campbell of Iowa State is a guy that they will take a very, very hard look at for the success he's had at Iowa State. But they've got to go out and get somebody who can really get everybody excited. As far as Notre Dame goes, you're just going to have to wait it out. Marcus Freeman was the coach they wanted. He was the coach that the players wanted, that the former players wanted. He was the guy that Jack Swarbrick, the athletic director, wanted. They had a bad game. Marshall lined up and beat them. But now you got to be patient, and I think Notre Dame will be fine. It's just going to Marcus Freeman is learning how to be a head coach, and sometimes that is not a pretty process.
Tony, one other name for Nebraska, I'm just going to throw this one out there. It's not a totally out of left field. Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern. Has he done as much as he can do at Northwestern with the academic deals they have up there? Could you imagine him? Because what he's done a great job, and his staff, that culture, they develop players. The academics being what they are, it'd be fun to watch him, because that Nebraska program, I mean, they've sold out every game since Bob Devaney took over in 62. And I'm just curious if you think that would work.
Well, I think Pat Fitzgerald's a very good football coach, and yeah, I do think it would work. But the question is, given what he's done at Northwestern, he's been there. Does he move the needle? Do you get those of us who know football know that Pat Fitzgerald is a very good football coach? But to the Nebraska fan at large, it's got to be somebody's got to come in and energize that program, because I don't see a whole lot of energy in that program right now. So I'd have no problem with Pat Fitzgerald being the head coach from a football standpoint. But what about from an energy standpoint? That's the question I'd have.
Yeah, because you look at what's gone on with Mark Stoops at Kentucky. This is year 10, and he's now the winningest coach there. He passed Coach Bryant. Bob, his brother, the winningest coach at Oklahoma. And Scott Frost was the hire at the time. They couldn't have been any happier. But I just wonder, with being in the Big Ten, what's their recruiting back? They used to go to Texas heavily, and they'd go to California a lot. And you look at Nebraska as the 4th winningest program, I think, in the history of college football. And again, 60 straight years of selling out every single football game. And look it up. Nebraska's got an endowment of well over $2 billion. And one of these days, Warren Buffett's going to pass on. And I don't know what he's leaving Nebraska, but they don't lack for money.
No, that's never been an issue. What the problem with Nebraska is, when they left the Big 12, they sort of lost their identity. They're all of a sudden in there with those Big 10 schools. Who's their rival? Right?
Yeah,
they do Iowa. They're trying to make that a rivalry. But yeah, they lost their identity, and they really haven't established an identity since they've been in the Big 10.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that needs to be done. But no, Nebraska doesn't lack for resources. They've got resources. They've got tradition. What they need is a really good coach, which they haven't done yet. It was where Frank Solich went like 10-1, 10-1, 9-3, and they fired him. I mean, it made no sense. And then he goes to the University of Ohio and just lights it up. So they've got to find a difference maker, not only on the field, but to the energy that he'll bring to the program.
Yeah. Tony, listen, I know you've got a big day ahead of you. I want to thank you so much for taking time to join us. Again, tell people how they can follow you, and which game are you going to this weekend? Or are you going to be in the man cave?
No, I'm going to be in the man cave. I'm going to watch Georgia play South Carolina at noon, and just sort of I don't need to travel this week. But we all the stuff that I write and my business partners write is on our website, which is under the Sports Illustrated umbrella. So that's si.com/college/TMG, which stands for the Media Guides. And we've added a bunch of stuff to our website. We have a podcast that drops every Friday. I do a little monologue about my memories over the years called Sweet Tea with Tony B. That appears on Saturday morning. And I'm looking back at the big play that David Pollock made against South Carolina back in 2002, 20 years ago. Wow. David Pollock made that famous rip and strip and touchdown against South Carolina, and Georgia won 13-7. So that's just some of the things that are on the website.
Hey, we love it always. And I think back to, didn't Coach Bryant used to always say when John Forney would sign off, he'd say, well, Coach Bryant, what are you going to do after the ball game here tonight? And Coach Bryant would say, I'm going to go home and see Mary Harmon and sit in front of the television set and listen to the Mississippi State game and have a glass of milk and an onion sandwich.
That's exactly what Coach Bryant had. Yes.
Yes, it is. It is. Tony, thank you so much. Look forward to our next visit always.
All right, guys. Take care.
You too. All right, Jimmy, I've never had an onion sandwich with a glass of milk, but ooh, that'd be rough. But let's head over to Birmingham, Jock 94.5 FM. Damian Mitchell, along with Tommy Agee, of favorite sons of Maplesville, Alabama, Pulpwood country over there on Highway 82. Damian, I know you've been up since about 5 o'clock this morning. You're, again, a great example of what you can do going to college, being a student athlete. Division III, Birmingham Southern, track and field, about a 21.69 200. Heck of a football player. at 5'8", 175 pounds, still working out. You could still line up and play. You're probably tougher than a lot of kids out there. Because you know what? You have people like Tommy Agee influencing you, a man who could leg press over 1,700 pounds.
Whew.
I mean, that is strong. That's more than Audrey, me, you, and Jimmy, and our entire lineup of guests today combined. How you doing, man? How was the show this morning? You're in Birmingham. Did y'all talk any college football by chance?
No, of course. I mean, it's another day at the office for us. Yeah, about Mr. Tommy, man. I guess I didn't get that. I didn't get that Maplesville gene in my blood. I guess I there's no way you could add up all my weight in front and squat, power clean, bench press, any exercise you want. And I still wouldn't get to 1,700 pounds. So, I mean, I guess I fell off the wrong side of that tree.
No, those good people over there. Listen, man. I know you were just on with Greg McElroy and Cole Kubelik, and you're making the rounds. You're up. Your show is 6 to 7 in the morning. What about this one? Got to ask you this weekend. I know y'all talked a lot about Alabama. They got the win. That's all that matters. Now this weekend they got La Monroe. Nick Saban remembers his first year. Alabama's a different program, night and day from then. Then you got the Auburn Tigers play host to Penn State, 3.5-point underdog at home. Jimmy Hodge talks a lot about Jordan Hare voodoo. It's going to take a lot. Auburn's got to be able to throw the deep ball because that's what Penn State does best. But what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Really and truly, it's going to have to come down to me, the consistency of the quarterback play. Whether it is Robbie Ashford, whether it is TJ Finley, they're going to have to make those throws. Last year, when you look at the game up in Happy Valley, I mean, granted, there were some plays that Bo Nix left out there on the field, and it really swayed the game. And you have a no different outlook if there's, a certain 3rd down and 3 or a 3rd down in medium range where you could have gotten it. But this year, I think as far as running the ball, you know what you're going to get with Tank and Jarquez out the backfield. You know what they can do. But when it comes down to those 3rd and longs, those third and medium plays where you're going to have to make those throws and step up in the pocket and really be smart and efficient with the ball, TJ and Robbie are going to have to make those throws.
Well, Penn State leads the nation. They're one of the top teams at defending the deep pass. If teams know Robbie Ashford's coming in and they know the package that he's just, going to run, then you got to do something different. You think the Tigers might lean heavily? Doug Dean, our good friend, the AU Daily Dose, told me last night he wouldn't be surprised to see Auburn go with a 70+% run-pass ratio.
No, yeah, and I feel as though that's one of the recipes that Auburn kind of dialed away from over the past year or so in this Brian Harsin regime. I feel as though sometimes he tries to force the balance when really and truly, if they're not stopping you in one element of the football game, then keep hammering it. I think Tank and Jarquez both can handle over 30 touches apiece. I feel as though they can handle any workload that's coming their way, which you look at the outside zone, something that they really start to predicate this year, and really letting these guys just beat backs, reading it, filling it out, and attacking whether they get 4 yards, whether they get 40 yards, either way they're being smart with the ball. And I feel as though that has to be the game plan. I don't think Penn State can line up physically down in and down out and stop or in a way contain what Tank and Jarquez both, possess out of the backfield, and even add Robbie Ashford in there because he is an X factor with his legs as well. So I do think that running the ball is going to be extremely key Saturday, and it's really setting the tone for the game, and establishing that first is going to open up so much more for that offense and what Auburn wants to do come kickoff.
All right, one more before we go to Jimmy, then we're going to have a break. But I got to ask you being there in Birmingham, Jefferson County, Shelby County, might be the best high school football in the state. You got a chance to see Robbie Ashford play over at Hoover. What is it that you have seen that Auburn fans haven't seen that makes you think he could be the man, if not TJ Finley?
Really, truly, I don't think he's reached his top speed yet. A guy, when I saw him in high school, he was still raw. We knew what he was athletically. And, the jump going to Oregon was that explosive offense and really trying to utilize his legs as much as they possibly can. I still don't think he's opened it up the entire package just yet. I think there's a smaller sample size for the playbook. And I know he's had some inconsistencies throwing the ball. And that's probably one of the things that I saw in high school that, he wasn't really asked to do that much because of how good of an athlete he was. But but I still don't think we've seen the full package of what Robbie Ashford can possess. And I get it. It's CJ Finley's team right now. He is the set starter. But Robbie can definitely give him a run for his money if he gets him a little bit more consistent passing ball. But as far as run the ball, I still don't think he's opened it up all the way yet.
Another one. If you're looking at it from TJ Finley, look at TJ Finley. He's had 2 interceptions. Ashford's had some. Auburn's had 4 in the first 2 games. You don't want to, if you amortize that over the season, I mean, you're looking at 24. You can't win doing that. Is it TJ Finley's problem, or is it the receivers aren't developed yet? Is it a combination of both? Break it down for us.
It's a lot of factors, because a lot of it plays into, the scheme of the certain play. Could be some of the certain coverage that he's seen. It could just be, mechanics. I know for Robbie, the interception that he had against San Jose State, he stared the receiver down on the flood pattern, and the safety was sinking the entire time. The cornerback, my apologies, was sinking the whole time. And he just read his eyes. I mean, Robbie did a bad job of trying to look him off. He kind of stared at the route the whole time. Corner sinks back, makes a play. And for TJ, when you go back and look at the second Mercer interception, that was just a poor throw. It was an absolutely poor throw, poor decision making. Even if it wasn't playing Mercer, that could have been a pick six to anybody else in the SEC. And then you look at the throw he had against San Jose State. First off, he was on the left hash, and he was making an out route throw there on the far side of the field, which is a tough throw to make anyway. And he's a step late behind him, and you leave a little bit more. And it was a great play by the corner for San Jose State over there. So there's a lot that goes into it. Coverages, down and distance. There's so much, but a lot of things they can clean up. And a lot of the mistakes that they're making are correctable mistakes that you can work, you can rep on in practice, and understanding that, oh man, I can't be, as soon as he hits that left foot, or as soon as he comes out of that break, I got to have the ball out. I got to have it out. So it just works on that timing and things. And again, having 2 quarterbacks really could, throw off a little bit of that timing as well from your receiver perspective. Because I am a former receiver. I can honestly say that sometimes you get a feel for a quarterback. You have a certain, flow that you get into, a certain groove that you get into with a quarterback. So there's a lot of things that goes into it. But I will say they both have their flaws when it comes to certain throws that they've made.
Yeah. Hey, look, we're going to get back more. I know Jimmy's got some questions for you, and we're going to break down some of the stuff that people watch. Hey, I don't understand this. Damian Mitchell's going to explain it more after this. Thanks, everybody, listening out on Lake Martin, Kicks 96.3 and all over. Sidelines after this 1-minute break.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown back with Jimmy Hodge, and we're talking with Damian Mitchell. Appears every Monday through Friday morning, 6 to 7 a.m. Jocks 94.5 FM in Birmingham. One of the favorite sons of Maplesville, Alabama, Birmingham Southern grad, football and track. Damian, I got to say this too. We got too many kids. I think everybody saw yesterday Deion Sanders coming out on Twitter. He's grown up. I mean, he used to drive me crazy, and I don't even know if you were around as young as you are back the time when he was playing for the Falcons and the Braves, baseball and football professionally. And he got in the locker room with Tim McCarver, and I mean, it's just crazy. But I think he's changed a lot, and he's becoming brutally honest. He's talking about the soft culture of a lot of the kids today, and also the specialization of just playing football 12 months a year versus multi-sports. You played them all, didn't you?
Oh yeah. One of the things I think that even me, I'm only 26, and I even see a little bit of a generational gap in a span of less than a decade of how these athletes are nowadays. Um, they're different, and one of the things that coaches used to always tell me is, what we consider athleticism is that if you can play multiple sports and still be good, or still be, at least good in something. So I mean, back to me, I played football, basketball, and baseball in high school, and like there was no ands, ifs, or buts about it. My parents always wanted me involved in something. I always wanted to be involved in something. I always wanted to play something. And when college coaches would come up to me, they're like, what position do you play in baseball, or what position do you play in basketball? I'm like, okay, they're not just worried about me as a football player. They're worried about me as an overall athlete. Can I use my hips? Am I good with my hips? Am I good, hand-eye coordination and certain things? And, I'm not big on the specialization. I don't think that you can ever truly just specialize and mainly focus on one thing, because, I mean, unless it becomes your job where you have to focus on that one thing, you'll never understand how good, or you'll never understand your value of what you can offer if you don't expand your horizon or expand your palette.
Yeah, and to me, I've always said this: track and field is your insurance policy. It's your insurance policy for every sport you play. Jimmy, jump in here with Damian Mitchell.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of divided here as far as how this Auburn coaching staff on the offensive side of the ball approaches this game, because there's no secret the Auburn fan base is really concerned with the level of quarterback play up to this point. And we've talked about the fact that Penn State is very experienced on the defensive side of the ball. They're very athletic. And, Finley's had his struggles the first couple of games. He's a drop back style quarterback, which is really Harson's preferred style of attack, to go through progressions and so forth. But Ashford's athletic ability, his elusiveness, and his ability to run is really a threat. But yet, with both of those guys, it seems like, to me, you have to use a different offensive scheme. Now, that could be an advantage if Penn State's got to get ready for two different styles. But at the same time, it's got to be hard for the Auburn coaching staff to kind of put all their time and split it between two schemes, as opposed to, normally putting it all into a specific game plan. How do you see this game progressing? Let's say if Finley does struggle to begin with and Ashford comes in there, let's say he gives him a spark. Do you stay with him and because of his big play potential, and then just hope that opens up the passing game with some routes down the field and that he can make some accurate throws?
Yeah, I think there's one of those things where I've always felt as a player, and even when I've had, coaches in my life, you play the hot hand. If TJ comes out and he's struggling and Robbie comes in and he's that spark, you roll with it until the momentum just stops, or it just comes to a point where the mistakes are just too much. And really and truly, one thing I think that we haven't got a chance to really focus on is, okay, we understand what the limitations are for Auburn's offense. When you look at them defensively, I don't think Penn State has enough explosion on their offensive side to sit there and try to and expand on the lead. They don't have the high octane offense that you see in Arkansas or Tennessee or even in Alabama for that matter. So I feel as though if Auburn does struggle offensively, their defense is going to be okay to carry that load, because I do think this defense is going to carry this Auburn Tigers team the entire season. I think when you look at Auburn's offensive struggles, and also you look at the receiver position, I mean, Javarius Johnson is starting to grow into that, quote unquote, go-to guy. I don't think that he's going to be able to find consistency in this Penn State secondary, who isn't afraid to go man with you. They're physical with their guys on front. When you look at Joey Porter Jr. out there at corner, I think he's one of the better corners in college football right now, and he's extremely physical. He's a rangy guy. Then there are holes that they can exploit, but it's going to take a very, very detailed effort for whoever is at quarterback for Auburn to find those holes and take those shots and be able to consistently make those throws when they need to.
Yeah, got to ask you about a defensive player, junior college transfer, who I think is about to break out and be a big time player. I'm talking Dale Carter type, who was a great one, back in the early 90s for Tennessee. Keontae Scott. I see him returning punts, pick six. It's about to explode, and I believe it will happen Saturday.
I believe he's starting to figure it out. I think you use those first two games as like a gauge of, all right, I'm starting to pick it up. I'm starting to get to the speed. I'm starting to understand, because that's the first time he can truly just go out there and play ball. If you make the mistakes, and every mistake that he's probably is making, he's making it full speed. But athletically, he matches up with anybody. Like, I feel as though they definitely got to steal with Keontae, because you see glimpses of, oh, yeah, he's definitely figured it out. He's definitely one of the bright spots on this defense, a strong physical guy. And something I've talked about on our show, Morning Jocks from 6 to 7, every day on here on Jocks 94.5, is that Auburn, I think, team-wise, when you look at team defense, I think they're the fastest team defense in the conference. I truly believe that. When you look at Riley and Owen Pepo at the linebacker spot, they're reading and diagnosing things, and they're laying the lumber. Like, they're getting there quick. Donovan Kaufman and Simpson back there in the secondary, their experience is really starting to show on the back end. And they seem as though team-wise, they're just a fast defense, and they're always, 4 or 5 Tigers around the ball when they're making plays. But you bring up a great point to Keontae, a guy that's really starting to blossom and really starting to figure it out. And it's going to be very big for the Tigers here as they roll along, especially here Saturday when they're going to need them most.
All right, let's switch gears. Let's head out to College Station. Fans will be driving to the game Saturday with their lights on. Man, things not going well for Texas A&M. And I think it starts with quarterback. Jimmy has chronicled the career of Haynes King. I don't know why Zach Calzada didn't think he would come back and be the starter. I worry why he thought he couldn't beat out Haynes King, but that's another set of circumstances. But App State goes in with one player rated 4 or 5 star on the entire roster. The rest of them 3s, 2s, and non-rateds. And there were 8 or 9 portal kids. I get that. But A&M, 56 guys on that roster rated 4 or 5 star, 7 5 stars in this recent recruiting class alone. Doctor, let's do the physical. Let's do the checkup on A&M. Where do they go from here? Because Miami is getting better.
Yeah, I completely agree. When you look at what happened at Texas A&M last week, I feel as though they were caught in that situation of, we don't have to play our best game and still beat a team like App State, and didn't realize that App State had absolutely nothing to lose. Like, they already are the underdogs going into it, and they played exactly how they've played all season long, or really and truly what their identity is ground and pound, limit your possessions. And you saw when Texas A&M had those possessions, there were turnovers. You see guys fumbling the ball. Haynes King making bad decisions. He didn't throw any interceptions, but he still had some inconsistencies throwing the ball. And I haven't been the biggest Haynes King supporter. I know that he's athletically maybe one of the better guys that Jimbo's really had. But when it comes down to just throwing the ball and being a quarterback, he's made some just bonehead decisions. It's just absolutely bonehead decisions. And really and truly, I feel as though he's on a shorter leash now than he was going into the season. I think you have to make a switch here shortly with Max Johnson. And not to say Max Johnson is one of these great guys, but you have to find some sort of spark, because that offense looked absolutely pedestrian last week. And Miami, if you don't believe Miami is coming, you got just watch their first 2 games and how they absolutely dismantled the first 2 opponents. And I know Southern Miss and drawing a blank who they had first, but it wasn't like they're the formidable opponents, but they went out there and handled their business. If you don't believe what Mario Cristobal is building down there, as Miami is for real, just watch them play. And I feel as though if you're Texas A&M, you could really start your season off 1-2. You could start September really and truly looking at 1-3, because you're following up with Arkansas coming up right after this game. So to me, I feel as though Texas A&M needs to have a sense of urgency before this season really gets off the rails.
Yeah, I think the Florida schools, Miami, Florida State, and Florida, are all starting to take back ownership of the top recruits in their state. And that is going to be a problem for a lot of schools. But Cristobal, Mike Norvell, Billy Napier can flat out coach. Jimmy?
Well, I will say this. Miami's offensive line had better be ready to play in the first half, because last week against Southern Miss, they really struggled. Now, once they went into the locker room, got reorganized, they looked really good in the second half. They do have a lot of good athletes. Van Dyke's an excellent quarterback. And, yeah, I really think they have a chance for the upset here, but this is a do or die game for Texas A&M, because if they can't get it done at home this week, now you have to go through a brutal 6-game stretch. You've got Arkansas at Jerry World. You've got a Mississippi State team in Starkville that you lost to at home last year. Then you've got Alabama. I mean, it just kind of goes on and on. That Western Division's pretty brutal. So they absolutely have to win. But, yeah, I mean, I just never understood Jimbo's it seems like limitless confidence in Haynes King. I mean, in the spring game, I just noted that his mechanics were not good throwing the ball. His footwork was not good, even in the opener against Sam Houston. Any throw over 20 yards, the ball floats. And in this league, you have to have an effective vertical passing game. I just don't see it, and I just didn't understand why Max Johnson really wasn't their guy from the beginning. I mean, as a freshman 2 years ago, his first start, he engineers that upset in Gainesville a week before Florida almost beat Bama in the SEC championship game. And then, last year he had the clutch throw to beat A&M.
Yeah.
I mean, and he played well in Tuscaloosa last year. So I just don't understand why he isn't already the guy, but they're not paying me $95 million to make that decision.
Yeah. I got to ask you that, Damian. Jimmy's right. I think we're paying coaches so much money, and who's not going to take it? But what is Jimbo worried about? If he gets fired, he still gets his money, doesn't he?
Absolutely. It's fully guaranteed. And I mean, for as much as Jimbo is the quote unquote quarterback whisperer, I guess that message just isn't getting across to Haynes King, because I feel as though he's had less talented quarterbacks and done more with them than what he has right now with Haynes King. And I don't know what it is. Something just isn't clicking. I just think that Jimbo Fisher, to me, when you look at his offenses over the last 5 years, they've all looked the same. They're just very pedestrian-like. I understand that this new age of quarterback, when you look at the RPO system, I just feel as though he's trying to make them the Jimbo Fisher quarterback. This is how it works. This is how it operates. This is how it always is. But Haynes King just isn't that guy. Instead of trying to force him to mold him and make him to what you want him to be, his skill set doesn't offer that. And obviously, of course, I'm just a regular fan and I don't get paid. Like you say, we don't get paid the $90-something million to make the decisions, but some of it just looks like, come on, Jimbo, let's not make this harder than it needs to be.
Yeah. All right, let's switch gears. Another one. Looking at Arkansas up to this point, that was my preseason pick as the second best team in the SEC West. Would you agree based on what you've seen so far? And again, I'm with Jimmy. You talk about that schedule going forward. It's like being – when you're a kid, you're going to a haunted house. It's just one room after another. I mean, you're waiting for the guy with the chainsaw to come out, and somebody, the bearded woman and the 5-legged goat, you don't know what's around the corner. But that's life in the SEC. But let's talk about the Razorbacks.
Yeah, I picked Arkansas to finish second in the West as well. I'm a huge KJ Jefferson supporter. I think what he's done this season so far, it's very similar to what Cam Newton did at Auburn. It's one of those things where he's not just looked at as the guy in throwing the ball. We're also designing quarterback runs for him to utilize his skill set. I think Jaden Hazelwood is starting to come into his own as finding his identity as the offense. And the identity of the team is strictly off of Sam Pittman. They're going to be gritty. They want every game to be a dogfight, because that's what they specialize on. I will say losing Jalen Callum on that defense is big, but I think for what they do as a team and what their identity as a team, they understand who they are. They understand their expectations. They're not reading their press clippings, because there's not even 5 years ago, Arkansas was out here looking for their first SEC win. Now they're sitting here at number 10 in the nation, and it's like Sam Pittman has just come in and just completely revamped. He has these guys believing, and he has the ultimate trust. And I feel as though those players trust him, and the coaches trust the players just as well. The first 2 games in, I don't think Arkansas has done anything but, if not, met expectations. I feel as though they're starting to exceed expectations along the rest of the season goes forward for them.
Yeah, there's an absolute buy-in. Look, we're about out of time. Catch Damian Mitchell, folks, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 a.m. every morning Central Time, Jocks 94.5. How do they follow you on Twitter and all your social media handles?
Yeah, you can see it right here. Damian Mitchell at Run DM and the number 6 on Twitter. On Instagram, it's Damian.Mitchell6. And you just find me on Facebook, same name, Damian Mitchell, and I'm always active there. Just sit around, talk ball. That's all I do. I'm here for fun. I love to, poke fun at things, and I don't mind poking fun at myself. Most importantly, I want to talk ball.
Hey, that's what we do here on Sidelines, man. Monday through Saturday, 8 to 10 a.m. Central. We talk college football, basketball, baseball, recruiting. That's what we do. That's who we are. So, hey, want to say great show, Damian, Jimmy, all of our guests, Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, Dudley, Dawson, Gary Harris. We love this stuff. Everybody listening, Kicks 96.3, Alexander City, Central Alabama on Lake Martin, 680 The Fan over there in Atlanta, our good friend Dan Matthews and Chuck Oliver. And everybody, check out the website, www.sidelines.live. If you don't hear us live, always go about an hour after the show. And my 94-year-old dad goes, I think I'm the only person who has trouble getting the thing. I said, well, you don't have Wi-Fi in your building. So anyway, but we're here talking college football. That's what we do. We absolutely love this. Hey, go out and help somebody with the expectation of getting nothing in return. Do it out of the goodness of your heart. Don't give to get, give to give, as my good friend from Dadeville, Jay Evers, Miss Rubens Rubs, always says. Most often, we see the face of Christ in the least among us. And folks, if you ever doubt you live in the greatest country in the world, listen to all this talk about college football. We do, and we're proud of it. We'll see you tomorrow. Till then, have a great day. We're out of here.